I hope you all are fit and fine at your places. I'm Priyanka Bish from Ardent Progressive School. Today in this session, we'll be discussing about the topics based on second chapter, which is theory base of accounting. And the topic for today's session is accounting conventions, basis of accounting and accounting standards. In the previous class, we have studied about accounting principles and the types of accounting principles. So today we'll start with the topic accounting conventions. So we'll be starting with the very first topic of this session, which is accounting conventions. Now, an accounting convention may be defined as a custom or generally accepted practice which is adopted either by general agreement or common consent among accountants. So, as we have already discussed that there is a difference between accounting principles and accounting conventions. By accounting principles, accountant prepare all the transaction or it records all the transactions systematically. And through accounting conventions, the accountant prepares the net results of the company. Net results are it prepares the profit and loss account to know the profitability of the business and also balance sheet to know the financial position of the business. Now, the main accounting convention, or we can say the types of accounting conventions are: first, convention of full disclosure; second, convention of materiality; and third, convention of conservatism or prudence. So, let's study in detail about the first type of accounting convention, which is convention of full disclosure. So, here this convention requires that all the significant information relating to the economic affairs of the enterprise should be completely disclosed. Or in other words, we can say there should be a sufficient disclosure of information which is of material interest to the users of the financial statements, such as proprietors, present and potential creditors, investors and others. So it is clear convention of full disclosure means whatever financial statement which is prepared by the accountant, every information is useful or every information should be disclosed to the third party who are interested in the business. For example, if the investor wants to invest in a business, so he should know all the information regarding the financial statements of the company. So the principle is so important that the Companies Act makes ample provision for the disclosure of essential information in the financial statements of a company. All the contents of balance sheet and the profit and loss account are prescribed by Companies Act. So various items or facts which do not find place in accounting statements, they are shown in the balance sheet by the way of footnotes. Footnotes can be: first, contingent liability. So we can take the example of contingent liability. For example, a claim of a very big sum pending in a court of law against the enterprise, it should be brought into the notice of the users of financial statements. Otherwise, the statements would be misleading. So here, contingent liability will be shown in the form of footnotes after the balance sheet. Second can be market value of investment should be given by the way of footnote. So these are the example how we will show the items or the facts in the form of footnotes. Now next convention is convention of materiality. So here, according to this convention, the items having an insignificant effect or being irrelevant to the user need not to be disclosed. That means whatever information which is not relevant to the external user, those information should not be disclosed. Only relevant information should be disclosed. So these unimportant items are either left out or merged with the other items. Otherwise, accounting statements will be unnecessarily overburdened. So here, according to this convention, it is clear that irrelevant information should not be disclosed to the external party or external users. We can take the example, for example, the cost of small tools may be material for a small repair workshop, but the same figure may be immaterial for ABC Company Limited. So similarly, the nature of the transaction should also be taken into consideration. A difference of 500 in the valuation of stock may be regarded as immaterial, but the difference of 500 in cash could be termed material. So here the accountant should judge the importance of each transaction to determine its materiality. And the last type of convention here is convention of conservatism or prudence. So according to this convention, all the anticipated losses should be recorded in the books of account, but all the anticipated or unrealized gain should be ignored. Or in other words, we can say that conservatism is the policy of playing safe. As we know, provision is made for all the known liabilities and losses, even though the amount cannot be determined with certainty. Likewise, when there are different alternatives for recording a transaction, the one having least favorable immediate effect on profits or capital should be adopted. So it is clear that in this convention, the accountant will record all the anticipated losses. That means he will make the provisions against the losses which will be occurring in the future, but he will ignore all the unrealized gain and anticipated profits. Now the examples of the application of the principle of conservatism can be: closing stock is valued at cost price or realizable value, whichever is less. Provision for doubtful debt is created in anticipation of actual bad debts, etc. These are the example of principle of conservatism. Now our next topic is basis of accounting. So as we know, the main objective of accounting is to ascertain the profit or loss of the business enterprise at the end of the accounting period. So there are two bases of ascertaining profit and loss. These bases are, first is cash basis accounting and second is accrual basis accounting. So let's study in detail what is cash basis of accounting and what is accrual basis of accounting. So first we will talk about cash basis of accounting. Now here, under this basis, incomes are not recorded unless they are received in cash. Similarly, expenses are recorded only when they are paid in cash. Now, in other words, we can say credit transactions are not recorded at all and they are ignored till the cash is actually received or paid for them. Thus, the profit is merely the excess of actual cash receipts in respect of sale of goods and other incomes over actual payment in respect of purchases of goods, expenses on wages, salary, rent, etc. So here in cash basis of accounting, we only record all the cash transaction. For example, if the firm has purchased goods on credit, such transaction will not be recorded because there is no cash involved in this transaction. So now the profit which is ascertained, that profit is the excess of actual cash receipts over actual payments. Income or the profit is calculated with the help of receipts and payment account, and this basis is useful for professional people like lawyers, doctors, chartered accountant, etc. So this is what cash basis of accounting is. Second, we have accrual basis. Now under this basis, the incomes are recorded when they are earned or accrued, irrespective of the fact whether cash is received or not. For example, sales made on credit will be included in the total sales of the period. Similarly, expenses are recorded when they are incurred or become due and not when the cash is paid for them. So here in accrual basis of accounting, we record both the cash as well as credit transaction. But the true picture of profit comes when we do accrual basis of accounting. So accrual basis of accounting is main basis of accounting. Here the rent due to landlord but not paid, it will be treated as expense for the period when it is due and not in the period when it is paid. So hence in accrual basis, we can say profit or loss of a particular period is the result of matching of the revenue earned and expenses during the period. So this is the difference between accrual and cash basis of accounting. In cash basis, we record only cash transaction. no credit transactions are recorded, whereas in accrual basis, both cash and credit transactions are recorded. Now next topic we have accounting standards. So as we have discussed in the previous classes that all the accountant have to prepare the accounts with all rules and regulations which are mentioned in accountancy, and it is also called generally accepted accounting principle. So here different enterprises may adopt different accounting policies for the same transaction, or we can say an enterprise may follow different accounting policies for the same item over different accounting periods. So as a result, financial statements become inconsistent and uncomparable. So hence there is an urgent need to harmonize and standardize these diverse accounting policy, and for this certain standards must be followed for preparing financial statements. So in accounting standards, we can say the International Accounting Standard Committee came into existence on 29 June 1973 to develop accounting standards, and the Institute of Chartered Accountant of India and the Institute of Cost and Work Accountants of India, they are associate members of IASC. IASC stands for International Accounting Standards Committee. So basically accounting standards are needed because to harmonize and standardize the diverse accounting policies adopted by the accountant in the different accounting period. So by this we can conclude the definition of accounting standards. Accounting standards may be defined as written statements issued from time to time by institutions of accounting professionals specifying uniform rules or practice for drawing the financial statements. Or we can say accounting standards, they are a code of conduct imposed on accountants by custom, law or professional body. Next we have the objectives of accounting standards. So objective of accounting standards are to ensure uniformity in the preparation and presentation of financial statements. That means whatever method is adopted or whatever policy is adopted in ascertaining the profitability in the previous year, it should be adopted in the current year and the coming year. Second is to provide information to the users about the policies adopted in the preparation of financial statements. So this is convention of full disclosure only. User should know about everything, every relevant information, that what are the policies which are adopted in preparing financial statements. Third is to remove the effect of diverse accounting policies and practices. Then to ensure consistency, transparency and comparability of financial statements. And the last objective is to improve the reliability and creditability of the financial statements. So these are some objectives of accounting standards. Now there are some limitations of accounting standards also. First limitation is restrict initiative. So since accounting standards are mandatory in nature, they restrict initiative for better presentation and disclosure. Second, we have rigid in nature. So accounting standards are rigid in nature. They restrain the accountants from using a more suitable alternative solution to a particular problem. Next we have based on historical cost. So accounting standards are based on historical cost concept, which means assets are shown in the balance sheet at historical cost, and as such depreciation is also charged on historical cost. And the last limitation is obstruct the judgment of auditors. So accounting standards obstruct the judgment of the auditors as the standards are mandatory. Now here is the applicability of accounting standards, where accounting standards are utilized. So except the purely charitable organization which does not have any commercial, industrial and business activity, accounting standard is applicable to sole proprietorship unit where only there is one owner who is running the business. Second is partnership firm where there is more than one owner who runs the business. Third is society. In societies also accounting standards are maintained. Trust, Hindu undivided family, association of persons, cooperative society, companies, and international financial reporting system. So here in these types of organization, accounting standards are applied. Now the last topic we have, need for IFRS. Now IFRS stands for International Financial Reporting Standards. So these are issued by International Accounting Standards Board, which is also called IASB. Here IFRS covers a wide range of international accounting standards which is issued by International Accounting Standard Committee. So we will now study what are the needs of IFRS. As we know, each country has its own set of rules and regulation for accounting and financial reporting. So when an enterprise decides to raise capital from abroad, the rules and regulation of that country will apply, and there will be differences in the financial reporting in the foreign country as compared to its own country. Therefore, a strong need was felt for the adoption of IFRS, as it would bring uniformity, comparability, transparency, and adaptability in the financial statements. So why IFRS was needed? To bring the uniformity in the rules and regulations applied in maintaining the financial statements internationally. Now let's see the basic need for IFRS. First is easy access to global capital market. So capital markets have now become global and companies are now in a position to access the funds globally. But investors all over the world rely on financial statements prepared on the basis of IFRS. So hence, IFRS based financial statements are now prerequisite for the enterprises seeking to raise overseas fund. Second need is easy to make comparison. Here the international investors would like to compare financial statements based on internationally accepted set of accounting standards. And why it is done? It is done to improve the ability of investors to compare their investment on a global basis, and thus lowers their risk of errors of judgment. So financial statement based on IFRS will facilitate the investors to compare financial statements without making adjustments for national accounting differences. Third is uniformity in financial reporting. So the adoption of IFRS brings uniformity, comparability, and transparency in financial statements. It improves the standard and quality of financial reporting. Fourth is lower cost of capital raised abroad. So at present, companies that operate in global environment, they have to prepare two sets of financial statement. One set based on home country's accounting standards and the another set based on IFRS. So in case of adoption of IFRS, it will have to prepare only one set of financial statements, and thus the cost of raising funds from abroad will be minimized. Next is true and fair valuation of assets. So here, as we know, there is a wide gap between existing Indian accounting standards and IFRS. So as per Indian accounting standards, assets are valued on historical cost, whereas as per IFRS, assets are reported at fair value, that is the estimated value at which the assets could be sold in the market. So adoption of IFRS would provide a uniform basis for the reporting of true and fair value of assets. So these are some reasons that why IFRS is needed. So in this session, we have covered the topic accounting standards, basis of accounting and accounting convention. In the next session, we'll be discussing some new topics. That's all for today. Thank you.